The land on which Edinburgh Castle sits has history dating all the way back to the Iron Age. Situated overlooking what many people believe to be the most haunted city on Earth, Edinburgh Castle has been the site of torture and horrific, bloody battles during its time. All the ingredients for a haunted location. Visitors and staff of this now tourist destination have experienced many things over the years. The most common is the feeling of being touched and pulled, as well as the sightings of apparitions. The more famous spirits include an old man wearing an apron, a headless drummer boy, and a piper who mysteriously lost his life after getting lost in the tunnels below the castle. Other reported experiences include shadowy figures, strange lights, sudden drops in temperature, unexplained mists, strange sounds, the feeling of being watched, and sudden intense feelings of dread, sadness, and despair, making this location a perfect place for a nice romantic getaway. St. Augustine Lighthouse, built in 1874, is an active lighthouse and museum in St. Augustine, Florida. The lighthouse and surrounding buildings have been reportedly haunted. The apparitions of two girls have been sighted on several occasions by both visitors and staff. The girls are believed to be the daughters of Hezekiah Pate, who was in charge of construction of the lighthouse in the 1870s. Two of his daughters drowned when a handcar or trolley used to bring construction material from the pier to the site went off the end of the pier while the children were playing in it. Both of them have been seen on the tower catwalk. The apparition of a woman has also been witnessed, standing on the stairway of the lighthouse or walking on the grounds outside the buildings. Her voice has been captured on several occasions, often crying out for help. There has also been various reports of disembodied conversations, shadows, and the sounds of footsteps coming up the lighthouse steps. The ghost of a man has also been seen in the lighthouse basement, believed to be that of a Civil War hero and former lighthouse keeper William A. Harn. If you're ever in St. Augustine, Florida on a foggy night, be sure to check out that mysterious light in the distance. The Banff Springs Hotel in Alberta, Canada, was built over 125 years ago by the Canadian Pacific Railway as a luxury stop-off point for travelers. Don't let its picturesque scenery fool you, though. It's rumored to be one of the most haunted places in the country. Terrifying reports include the sighting of a bride who fell down the staircase, breaking her neck after panicking when her dress caught fire. Talk about stop, drop, and roll. Her apparition has been seen on the staircase and in the ballroom dancing, with many reporting seeing flames on the back of her dress. The main story that is told by the locals is that of a family that was murdered in room 873. The door to this room has since been sealed away, but the family that tragically lost their life in this room are still seen to this very day, often in the hallway, right outside the very room they were murdered in. Perhaps the most popular of all the reports is the former bellman, Sam McCauley. He worked at the hotel during the 60s and 70s and is often seen to this day. He likes to help guests up to their rooms, dressed in his 60s uniform, often turning on lights and opening locked doors. If you try to make conversation or tip Sam, he will vanish right before your very eyes. Hey, at least you don't have to tip him, right? With a history of torture and execution going back over 900 years, the Tower of London is regarded by many as one of the most haunted places in the UK. It was originally built in 1078 by William the Conqueror, and has served a major role in the history of England ever since. There have been many reports of the paranormal at the Tower of London over the years. The most famous of all the spirits that live within its walls is Anne Boleyn, the wife of King Henry VIII. She lost her head in 1536, but that didn't stop her, as her headless body has been seen walking the tower's corridors, and often near the spot of her execution. Other full-bodied apparitions have also been seen, including Lady Jane Grey, a noblewoman who was executed in 1554, was sighted by a guardsman in 1957. In the White Tower, Lady Grey has been seen, often standing near a window, where she once stood waving to her children on the other side of the building. Perhaps the most spine-chilling of all the reports include the mysterious appearance of two children. They have been witnessed throughout the rooms of the castle. They're often seen in their nightgowns, holding hands and with a look of terror on their faces. It is believed that these are two former princes who were sent to the tower after they were deemed illegitimate by Parliament. One day, the children vanished, and it was assumed that they were murdered by the order of their uncle, the Duke of Gloucester. Two small skeletons were exhumed beneath the staircase in the White Tower, and are believed to be the remains of the children. Located on Lake Texulio in Xochimilco near Mexico City is La Isla de las Muñecas, the Island of the Dolls. The Island of the Dolls is certainly one of the creepiest haunted locations in the world. Legend says that three young girls were playing near the water in the 1920s, when one of the girls fell in and drowned in the murky waters. Locals believe that ever since her death, the young girl's spirit has been unable to leave the island. It soon grew quite a reputation as a haunted place, and locals wouldn't go near it at night for fear of what they may see. In the 50s, a man named Julian Barrera moved to the island. Julian was unaware of the dark history of the area when he moved there to become a recluse. Julian claimed that as soon as he moved onto the island, a little girl began speaking to him. The girl told Julian how she had died, and that she was trapped on the island. He began to get dolls for this little girl, often selling off fruits and vegetables that he had grown on the island, so that he could buy old dolls for her to play with. Julian later told his nephew that it was becoming more difficult to appease the young girl's thirst for these dolls, with him seemingly worried that she wanted him to join her in her watery grave. The same day he had this discussion, his nephew was returning to the island, where he found his uncle face down in the canal. What's even creepier is that his body was in the exact same spot where the little girl had apparently drowned 70 years before. Today, tourists to the island often speak of dolls' eyes following them. Others have also reported that the mutilated dolls whisper to them, especially at night. Julian's ghost has also been reported on the island, trapped forever with the children and the dolls. Built in 1829, Eastern State Penitentiary is a former prison in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It's known for being the very first prison of its kind to introduce solitary confinement. Prisoners were sent to solitary during this time as a form of rehabilitation. They would be completely isolated, living alone, eating alone, and even exercising alone in their own individual yards. Whenever an inmate left his cell, a black hood would be placed over his head to assure he remained in confinement. Due to Eastern State's harsh approach, many prisoners were driven insane, and as a result, the solitary system was scrapped in 1913. From then until 1970, it was used as a regular prison, and held the likes of Al Capone and the bank robber Willie Sutton. Reports of the paranormal have been going on since the 1940s. But ever since the stone prison was abandoned in 1971, paranormal experiences have seemingly skyrocketed. People have reported sighting shadowy figures that seem to turn away quickly when approached. Evil laughter is heard throughout the cell blocks. Ghostly faces, mist-like apparitions, and strange sounds such as disembodied footsteps, distant talking, and banging of cell doors have also been heard. The Catacombs of Paris has got to be one of the most creepiest places on Earth. Many people don't know about the creepy underground tunnel network right in the middle of Paris, which is a historic and massive graveyard. The catacombs are the dark side of Paris, which have become yet another fascination for visitors to the city. Whilst Paris is renowned for its style and beauty, it also has a much darker attraction just below the surface. The catacombs were built in the 18th century, with markings on the walls dating all the way back to the French Revolution, 1789 through 1799. The graveyards around Paris were overflowing, so the bones of the citizens were exhumed and moved to the tunnels of Paris's ancient quarry. The remains of around 6 million people still remained underneath the city, packed into the tunnel walls. The tunnel network is around 200 miles long, and it has not entirely been mapped out yet, and only a small portion has been made open to the public. When venturing away from the public areas, it is very possible to get lost in the catacombs without an experienced guide. Legend has it, Philibert Aspère got lost in the Paris catacombs. His body was found 11 years later, and he was reportedly very close to an exit. Better bring some breadcrumbs. Some reports have heard disembodied voices, hearing footsteps in front of or behind them, and feeling random cold spots despite the stifling atmosphere below the streets of Paris, France. You might not have known this, but the White House is one of the world's most famous haunted locations in the world. It has been the official residence of every president since 1800, when John Adams first moved into the house. With the vast amount of history and historical figures that have graced its rooms, it's definitely not surprising that the White House has a ghastly tale or two. Former presidents, their families, and foreign dignitaries have all attested to the paranormal happenings at the White House. On one particular visit, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Winston Churchill, was staying in the Lincoln bedroom. He had just finished bathing and walked back to the suite where he saw Abraham Lincoln standing by the fireplace. He refused to sleep in that room ever again after that. Other people that have said they have seen ghosts of Abraham Lincoln include Presidents Theodore Roosevelt, Herbert Hoover, and Dwight Eisenhower, First Ladies Jackie Kennedy and Claudia Johnson, presidential children Susan Ford and Maureen Reagan. Maureen and her husband both witnessed Lincoln standing near the same exact fireplace where Churchill had reported seeing him. President Andrew Jackson is believed to haunt the Rose Room, with numerous White House employees reportedly hearing his hearty laughter or him in a fit of rage, swearing violently. Various other specters have also been seen, including past employees, Presidents Thomas Jefferson and John Tyler, First Lady Dolly Madison, an English soldier, and Anne Surratt. Sudden cold spots, disembodied footsteps, voices, knocks, and screams have also been reported at the seemingly extremely haunted 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. These are just some of the most haunted places on Earth. And who knows, maybe next time you're staying in an old hotel, you might get more history than you bargained for.